I'm Willie.
I'm James.
Heather.
Levi.
Every 45 seconds, a car is stolen in the United States, but you're stuck in the middle of the desert with a broken key and no cell phone. You quickly realize it was a bad idea to remove your HIDA key, and now wish you could hotwire. Well, your wish is answered as I guide you through the process of becoming a car thief, or in this case, a survivor. I see some of you might be hesitant as to why you'd want to hotwire a vehicle when that's usually something reserved for criminals. I personally have hotwired a vehicle 4 times, and not once have I broke the law. There was once in the desert, it was kind of a gray area, but I can assure you the intent was not that. The intent and result was to restore a forklift to service when we would have been waiting 3 or 4 weeks for a replacement key. The Manchester Evening News reports that over 15,000 Britons lose their key each and every day. An admittedly self-serving article by a security firm, but those numbers aside, people lose their keys a lot. So, soak up what car thieves already know as I teach you how to hotwire. An Arizona auto theft study said auto theft is a gateway crime. Basically what they're saying is if you commit auto theft, you'll commit a more serious crime. If you're still interested in crime, I'll teach you the vehicle to steal. If you're not interested in crime and just interested in prevention, I will help you with tips to prevent auto theft. We'll use electronic principles to guide us through this today, and I'll give you useful tips on what hotwiring is useful for. Now, before we begin hotwiring, let's go over some of the consequences. Auto theft is a serious problem. In Arizona, there's 10 auto thefts per every 1,000 people in their population. The U.S. only has 4 auto thefts per 1,000, so Arizona definitely is the guru on this subject. Their Criminal Justice Commission says the reasons for auto theft include selling it for parts, just selling it as a whole, and using it for crimes. The FBI says that over $4.5 billion in cars are stolen every year. Now that's not counting insurance claims that pay out. So we're looking at over a $9 billion car theft problem. The victims, they lose their security after this because they're a victim of a crime, and they also, most of the time, lose their independence. The average car that's stolen is somewhere around $6,000. The victim obviously doesn't pay most of this because of insurance, but they're still liable for the deductibles and if they owe money on their things. So you're looking at a couple $1,000 the victim's going to have to pay because someone stole their car. The National Insurance Crime Bureau says the #1 car stolen is a 1994 Accord. So if you have one of those, you might want to get rid of it. Honda actually has the top 2 spots because of how popular the cars are. These cars only have a 10% chance of recovery. So 90% of the time, you're not getting your car back. So the best thing to do is prevent it from happening in the first place. In only 5 states is minivan on the top of the list. So a minivan is a good choice if you don't want to get it stolen. If you can't handle a minivan, a car made after 2005 has some electronic features in there that'll prevent it. Alarms. Criminals hate attention, so let's give it to them. Put an alarm on the car. And the easiest thing to do is just lock your doors. If it's locked and they can't get into the ignition, they're not going to be able to hotwire it. If you are going to go out there and try and steal vehicles, just be warned. Cops have plenty of decoy vehicles out there that basically lock you in the car and record everything you did. The patrol cars actually have cameras in them that track license plate numbers, and so they'll be able to find the car after it's been reported stolen. If you do get caught, you have the potential for jail, fines, and possibly an angry owner with a gun. If you're ready to face that guy with the gun, or you're not using hotwiring for evil, let's show you how. According to Merriam-Webster's dictionary, hotwiring is short-circuiting the ignition system. A background of electronics is you need 3 basic components to complete a circuit. And the 3 basic components are a load, a source of power, and something connected to. For our source of power, we're using a battery with the car. For the load, it's the starter. And to connect the 2, like I said, we're using a keyed ignition switch and some wires. So electronics states that by themselves, these components cannot do anything useful. But together, in this case, they can start a car. Now we're ready. Now we're ready to hotwire a car. This is the point of no return. The first thing you need to do is expose the wires in the back of the ignition. How you do this is remove the dash. I have this mock-up here. And basically on the front, I have a car's ignition system. As you can see, when I turn the key, and it starts. So I turn the key, the computer comes on, and it starts. But we don't have keys. So what you need to do is expose the back part of your dash. This shows you wires. Okay, what I have here today is basically I've just stripped the middle out of the wires, so you can see the bare wire here. In the car, you want to tend to make your wire like this. You just strip the insulation off the end, and then you can twist the wires together. Or if you don't want to cut the wire, you can just strip a piece out in the middle. So the first thing to do is figure out what wire does what. So we're going to start off with this red wire here. We're going to touch it to the black. You can see it makes the starter go. You touch it to the yellow, it does nothing. So what that tells us is the black wire is our common wire. So we need to turn the computer on first. Alright? Now that we have the computer on, all it is, the hot wiring, is touching the starter wire to the other two wires. So we'll touch it over here, and you're starting your car right now. So the car is running, you're ready to go, right? But there is one last thing, the ignition lock. And I have a story about that. I broke the key off in my Elantra, and I had a remote start on it. So I was able to start the car, but the steering wheel is locked. You're in the desert, so there's two ways to deal with this. You can possibly just drive straight, I mean, if you're in the desert. But the better way to deal with it is disable the lock. The easiest way that I found with the Elantra was just kick the sucker off, and then you remove the mechanical lock that's in the ignition, locking out the steering wheel. So, now that you're ready to make it home for dinner, without a key, but there's only certain cars this works on. Hot wiring is useful, but it's not always possible. The useful aspects of hot wire, a nonlinear example is remote starting. Remote starting is when you take an electronic device and basically do the hot wiring, and it's all in a nice tight electronic package that you have a remote to talk to the car with. The problem with this is it doesn't work on the newer cars because they have immobilizers. There are workarounds, but these workarounds are expensive and often make you leave the key in the car. So, now that you're a master of hot wiring, let's wrap things up. I hope you have a better understanding of electronic systems of the car and how to start them without the key. There's a ton of criminals out there. I hope you're not one of them, because really the only people they're hurting is the people that are already hurting. Electronics is the driving force in all that we do. And in the car, it's no different. Most cars are incompatible with hot wiring, but there are some new ones that are, and there's plenty of old ones that are also hot wireable. So know what car you have and see if you need to take the precautions. Hot wiring is taboo, because why steal a car? I hope you realize that this speech was not geared towards stealing a car, but towards the electronics involved and the people that it affects in devastating ways. Thank you, and have a good day.